manipulation, betrayal, and murders. Today we will discover who were the worst women in the Bible for the crimes they committed and the story behind them. If this topic interests you, consider helping us by leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to share this video. In third place as the worst woman in the Bible, we have Herodias. Before we talk about her atrocity, we need to understand what happened to John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a bold and charismatic prophet. He began preaching in the regions around the Jordan River, denouncing sins and encouraging people to repent. He attracted a considerable number of followers due to his impactful message and his life of devotion in the desert. The situation became tense when John the Baptist publicly criticized the marriage of Herod Antipas to Herodias. Herod Antipas, the ruler of Galilee and Perea, had divorced his legitimate wife and married Herodias. The problem was that she had also recently divorced her husband, who was Philip, the brother of Herod Antipas. The marriage of Herod Antipas to his brother's divorced wife was not only a moral issue, but also challenged Jewish laws. John the Baptist courageously denounced this illicit union and did not hesitate to point out the moral consequences of this action. His fiery speech did not go unnoticed by Herodias, who, offended and threatened by John's message, wanted to kill him. However, Herod Antipas had a relationship of admiration for John the Baptist. He initially respected John as a prophet, even though he was sometimes puzzled by his words. Nonetheless, Herod Antipas eventually gave in to political and social pressures, as well as Herodias' influence, and ordered John the Baptist's imprisonment. While in prison, John the Baptist became a figure of resistance, remaining faithful to his principles even in adversity. His imprisonment not only symbolizes the conflict between divine morality and human ambitions, but also becomes a turning point in the story. She says she was not satisfied. For her, imprisonment alone was not enough. She truly wanted John executed. The climax of Herodias' story occurs during an extravagant banquet hosted by Herod Antipas. Herodias strategically instructed her daughter, often identified as Salome, to dance and display herself before Herod, enchanting him to the point where he promised to give her anything she asked for. Then comes the great opportunity. Salome, instructed by her mother, chooses as her reward the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Herod, a man of his word, trapped by his oath and fearing the reaction of the guests, complied with the request. Thus, John the Baptist, the bold prophet who criticized the marriage of Herodias and Herod, was finally executed. In second place, among the worst women in the Bible, is Athaliah. Athaliah's story begins in the halls of power in Judah. She was the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, thus possessing a lineage deeply rooted in the political and spiritual instability that characterized that era. Her son Ahaziah ruled the northern kingdom bravely. However, about a year later, both Ahaziah, the ruler of Judah, and Joram, the leader of Israel, met their tragic fates at the hands of Jehu. They were killed by Jehu, the commander of Israel's army. After the death of her son, none of her descendants were old enough to take the throne of Judah. Thus, Athaliah saw an opportunity to further consolidate her position. She made a bold move, taking control of the throne, defying expectations and established traditions. Athaliah's ambition knew no limits as she took power. She saw the royal lineage of David as a threat to her newly acquired position. The lineage of David held special significance in Jewish tradition, representing the divine promise of a Messiah descending from David. To achieve her goal, Athaliah took a drastic and cruel action, ordering the execution of all descendants of the house of David who could represent a future threat to her reign. This attempt to exterminate the royal lineage involved a series of violent murders aimed at eliminating any potential competition for her throne. However, her brutal strategy was interrupted by Jehoiada, the high priest, who hid Joash, the only surviving descendant of David, in the temple. This bold action ensured the continuity of David's lineage, despite Athaliah's efforts. Later, when Joash reached the appropriate age, Jehoiada orchestrated a plan to crown him king. Jehoiada held a public ceremony in favor of Joash, revealing David's descendant. The population became fervent as they realized the impending revolt. Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, "Treason! Treason!" However, the people, following Jehoiada and supporting the legitimate restoration of David's lineage, were not deceived by Athaliah's claims. Joash's ascent to the throne was a crucial moment, and Athaliah was captured outside the temple. She was taken to the royal palace, where she was executed. The biblical account in the second book of Kings, chapter 11, verse 16, records Athaliah's death, thus ending her reign marked by intrigue and violence. Now, in first place, the most cruel woman in the Bible, Jezebel, also known as Jezebel. Jezebel, a Phoenician princess, married Ahab, king of Israel, sealing a political alliance. Her impact transcended the boundaries of marriage as she brought with her the worship of Baal, a pagan god, introducing idolatry in Israel. Her marriage to Ahab became a union marked by a powerful but negative influence that cast shadows over the nation. Jezebel was a staunch defender of Baal worship, encouraging the construction of altars and temples dedicated to this pagan deity. Idolatry flourished under her influence, distancing the people of Israel from their traditional faith. Jezebel embodied corruption and manipulation. Her influence introduced not only the idolatry of foreign gods, but also brutality against those who opposed her. She ordered the execution of several prophets of Jehovah, eliminating those who opposed her religious beliefs, including an intense persecution of the prophet Elijah, whose life was threatened by the queen's wrath. Furthermore, she abused royal power to fund and support hundreds of prophets of Baal, using state resources to promote this foreign religion. A remarkable passage in the Bible regarding Jezebel's wickedness tells the story of Naboth, a righteous man and owner of a vineyard next to the royal palace. He refused to sell his property to Ahab. Even when the king offered fair compensation, Ahab's desire for Naboth's vineyard became an obsession. But the righteous man's refusal remained steadfast. Here enters Jezebel's wickedness. Seeing Ahab's distress over not obtaining the vineyard, she devised a malevolent plan to satisfy the king's desires. Jezebel conspired to falsely incriminate Naboth, organizing false accusations against him. False witnesses were summoned to accuse Naboth of blasphemy against God and the king. Jezebel's evil plan reached its climax when Naboth was condemned and stoned to death based on fabricated charges. The cruelty of this plot reveals not only Jezebel's wickedness, but also the moral corruption that permeated Ahab and Jezebel's reign in Israel. Divine justice was not long in coming. The prophet Elijah confronted Ahab and Jezebel, announcing divine judgment upon them for Naboth's death, proclaiming that Jezebel's wickedness would not go unnoticed by God. The prophet Elijah foretold that dogs would lick her blood in the city of Jezreel. Later, Jezebel's end was as dramatic as her life. The Bible narrates that after Ahab's death, his son Jehu took the throne. Jehu, driven by a divine mission, confronted Jezebel. The queen tried to seduce him with her cunning, but divine justice prevailed. Jezebel was thrown from a window by a royal officer, and her body was devoured by dogs, as foretold by Elijah's prophecy. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Please leave in the comments where you are watching this video from, and remember to subscribe to the channel to help spread our work. Hugs and God bless.